Thank you very much, President Tom, for that wonderful and overly generous invitation. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be here today, and it's a true honor to be here on perhaps one of the most special days in Pittsburgh, and certainly the most special day goes so far for the students that are graduating today. Congratulations to you. This is a completion of a wonderful, wonderful accomplishment. And how about a round of applause for the 2012 graduates? The second group, as a Shadyside parent, there's another group here today that has sacrificed quite a bit. A group that's gone through the homework each evening. A group that's financed this process and that has held the hands during various. Vivek, what did you say? What kind of calculus was that? Anyway. All the tests of the evening of study. The parents here having a great day. Congratulations to the parents. How about a round of applause for the parents? And before I get started, there's a third group that I would like to recognize. You know, if the faculty and the administration don't show up tomorrow, there is no Shadyside Academy. It's a wonderful place, might be a park, but there's no education taking place here. And so this wonderful, wonderful faculty that has delivered arguably the finest high school education in America has delivered it to these students today. How about a round of applause for this fabulous faculty? Now, today is a day of emotion. All of us, I'm sure the students have a great deal of emotion. The parents have all these emotions they're thinking about. This is a relief. This is an accomplishment. The kids are moving on. It's a tremendous, tremendous emotional event. And I was talking to President Tom, and we were talking about the emotions that the students have. I mean, a great accomplishment, relief, nervous. Can they get the diploma? Will it be signed? Always an hour-by-hour event. But there's also nervousness about change and what's next and what's up next. And it's going to be a big change for next year. So when you're asked to do something like this, you always ask for advice about what the students might like to hear. And so I asked President Tom, of course, a great source of information. I said, what would they like to hear? He said, tell them it's going to be all right. Thank you very much for that advice, President Tom. After much analysis, and I thought about it for a while, and I said, you know, in the world we're in, that's probably not bad to hear. It's probably not bad to hear. And it is going to be all right. And why is it going to be all right? There's a few reasons. One is we're in a world that has a pace of change that's unlike almost any other in the history of the world. Things are changing so rapidly you can't even imagine. And when you're coming out of school and you're going into the next school, you're going into a career, where do you want to be? You want to be in a place where there's change. Because if there's no change, you're just going to sit and keep dumping out the same pail of water for the rest of your life. I mean, it's not what you want. You want a place where you can enjoy and invest your time and efforts and be rewarded for it. And that's where pace of change comes in. If you think about this, when you were freshmen, Facebook had 200 million participants. Today they have over 1 billion. That's 100% growth in every year since you've been, the 4 years you've been here. It's remarkable growth. Pace of change is amazing. And that's not all that's changing. If you think back only 6 years ago, there was no Skype. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter. Blockbuster Video was the #1 entertainment company in the United States of America. Now bankrupt, right? And you don't recall, perhaps, but 6 years ago, Apple was rumored to be on the verge of bankruptcy. Now the largest market cap company in the world. Massive change. And it's changed everything. It's not just changing in those technology spaces. It's changing how we communicate with each other, how we work with each other. It's changing every business. 6 years ago, check writing in the banking business, check writing was still a growth business. Check writing was growing 6 years ago. Today, it's going to be 17% of the payments business, online banking growing at 20%, mobile banking with your cell phones growing at 40% per year on a smaller base. The pace of change is increasing, and quite frankly, I think that is just the most exciting thing you could ever want. This is the most exciting time in the United States, I think, since the Industrial Revolution, and it's exciting for you as graduates moving into the next stage of your life. And the other thing about change is that the United States is driving it. They're creating it, driving it, and so you can participate in it in a way that nobody else can. So I think it's a very, very exciting time, and if I were coming back, this is exactly the time that I would want to come back in, because the opportunities, I think, will be terrific. Now, the next question I asked myself after the invitation from Mary Jo Dively is, why me? Why am I here talking to this group? And so when you have that question and you think about, how do you get that question answered? Mary Jo, I mean, how could anybody be more successful than Mary Jo Dively? Successful woman, mother, lawyer, executive, board of trustees chair, and it goes on and on. So I asked her, I said, Mary Jo, why me? She thought very carefully, as you know, she always has the right way to say things. She said, well, it's because because you're old. And I thank you for that analytical response as well. Now, I know Mary Jo, thought about this deeply, and what she probably meant to say was that I was experienced. I converted it to experience. We all do that. From this side of the room has converted it many times. I said that. And I said, so I'm experienced. So I said, well, okay, now experience. If it's an experience, then what should I talk about? Should I talk about the great education that you're going to leverage in the next role? No, because you know a lot about that. And should I talk about the great start that you have because you're coming from this wonderful school? Well, you've already heard about that from Vivek, and I frankly don't like the opportunity to follow him next time, Pat. Tom, I don't want to do that. But what could I share from my experience? And in addition to your technical capabilities, there's a couple of things I'd like to share with you. I'd like to talk a little bit about values, because I think they're critically important in your personal life and your business life and your career life, no matter what you do. And I'll talk just a little bit about career building. So when I thought about talking about values, that's kind of a philosophical term. So I called my daughter, Chrissy, who taught here this year, and I said, how do I talk about this? And she said, well, advice is always good. She said, why don't you just tell a few stories and try and make them be the true ones, okay? I said, okay. And so I thought about values, and I looked at the Shady Side book, and the values at Shady Side and the values at PNC are almost identical. So I'll just go through a few stories, if you will. First one is customer focus. We have this customer focus value. And it's clearly, whatever you're doing, it's important to focus on what you're trying to do, right? And when I was first at PNC, I was a trainee. They sent me to the operations building, and I was in charge of sorting checks and putting them in numerical order for the U.S. Steel Pension Fund. I kind of thought maybe that was beneath my MBA status, even though I was not making much. But anyway, and there was this large woman, Mary Bonzak, God rest her soul. And Mary Bonzak grew up and lived on a farm, and she could lick me and every guy in this first 7 rows all at once, boom, like that. And she had this bellowing voice, and I think she got a sense that perhaps I was not focusing like I should. And she unloaded on me. She just unloaded on me. And what I understood after that, she told me that if I got those checks out of order, I would do more damage to that customer relationship than I would ever do as a calling officer, any good that I would do as a calling officer. And it taught me that no matter what you're doing, you need to focus, you need to be careful, and you need to do it the best you can, because it affects a much broader range of things than you even know about. Secondly is respect. And I think this one, it's how you treat people. If you don't treat people with respect, they won't treat you with respect. If you don't respect how they are, they won't listen to you, they won't partner with you, they won't believe you, and you will struggle personally and corporately and career-wise, no matter what you're doing. It's critically important. I remember many years ago, I gave a fellow in our company a referral. And all he had to do was go to the committee and get approval, which was simple, and he would get credit for this huge piece of business. I sat in the back row in the committee room. He didn't know I was there, and he espoused what a great job he did in generating this piece of business and never mentioned my name. I was never going to get any credit for it anyway, but it really hurt my feelings that he didn't respect me enough to at least mention my name. I mean, it was a really big deal. I didn't refer any more business to him. He didn't do well, and his career went down in flames. Not necessarily. Anyway, you got to respect people. Just a thank you is a big word, I know, but it doesn't take long to talk about. Just say it, please. Just say it. It's a big deal. Now, integrity is a value. We all know about integrity, and it's talking about telling the truth and what have you. And I thought back about integrity and what story I could tell you. And I remember being with my boss one time, Tom O'Brien, who was a Shady Side parent, was my predecessor. And Tom asked me a question, and I didn't know the answer, of course. And so I did what maybe you would do, and I tried to spool up an answer, And he cut me off, and he said, if you don't know the answer, just say you don't know the answer and go get the answer. But don't spin up a story, because I might take what you tell me as the truth and go do something with it. And I might do something really bad. And then I'll have to come back and fire you. That's real important one. I'd hang on to that one. It worked for me. Diversity is one. That's my favorite. I love this idea. We always have to espouse diversity. I know diversity is like somebody has to tell us that diversity is important. I mean, to me, not embracing diversity is just stupid. I mean, think about it. Okay, we're going to build a bridge, and I can pick from 5 people who to help me with the bridge. And I say I want to pick, let's pick it, pick the white guy. I don't know that the person at the other end of the bench is a PhD in engineering. I mean, it's just stupid. So we have to really think about who are the most qualified people to help us on our team. And it's really critically important. And so it's just the right thing to do. Teamwork is one of my favorites. It's more fun to be a team. Frankly, you can accomplish a lot more as a team. And it reminds me of a call that I made many, many years ago. A number of you remember Westinghouse was here. I was with this little tiny bank, Pittsburgh National Bank. We were $2 billion. We're now 150 times that size. We were a little bitty bank. I called on Westinghouse, and I called on this fellow, and we were talking about cash management. I was very young. And he says to me, do you think that you could capture the microline numbers and all the checks that the lockbox banks across the country are collecting, along with the dollar amounts and the FRD numbers, and have them transmitted to you in magnetic tape and paper tape and all these things, and you would collect it, put it together, edit it, reformat it, put it into your computer, and update our receivables every night, CPU to CPU, by 10 o'clock at night? I said, sure. And he said, I'll make sure you get paid for it. And we shook our hands, and I turned around, and I was on my way out the door, and I stopped, and I turned around to him, and I said, is there any reason why you didn't bid this out, why you're just kind of giving it to us? And he said, well, yes. He said, I've already asked Citibank, Chase, JP Morgan, Mellon, and they all said it was impossible. And 3 minutes later, I was out on Stanwyck Street thinking to myself, oh my God, what have I done? And I went back to the bank, and the team got together and made it work, and it turned out to be great for us. And so teamwork is just absolutely critically important in everybody's life. And quality of life, I will say that it's also a value that we have to understand one another. If you're not happy, if you're not able to do what you need to do for your family, for your friends, for your partners, for your community, we all grow and live in our communities, and communities are critically important to us. So if you don't value that, then you're missing something as well. So I think when you think about these values, and you have your own, I just think it's something that you have to make sure that you invest in. And when you think about what decisions you have to make, it's about doing the right thing value-wise. So let me switch to one last thing, and that's about career. And I think it's very interesting. I frequently get asked by the trainees. They say, "Now, what kind of a plan did you have when you came to then PNB, now PNC, to become the CEO?" And I really kind of have to stifle myself how ridiculous that was. I came to Pittsburgh because I was broke. I needed a job. I had a wife, a kid on the way, and I was in big trouble. And the concept of becoming the CEO was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it never crossed my mind in a million years. And so what actually happened was that I worked hard, I lived by the values, and I got lucky. And that's why I'm sitting in the chair I am today. And if any CEO says to you that he wasn't lucky or she wasn't lucky, then stop listening to them, because good fortune plays a big role in getting to this spot. But a career, you don't have to be the CEO to be successful. Successful is measured on a number of veins, and I think what you have to do is build success piece by piece. And when I think about what's happened at Shady Side, let me think about Shady Side Academy. Many years ago, when the large corporations were here, the large corporations would pay people to join the Fox Chapel Golf Club and move their families to Fox Chapel. And Shady Side was an excellent education with a great facility, and that's how the students got here. That's changed a great deal. The public schools are much more competitive today. They're higher quality and much better facilities than they had competitively 40 years ago. And so Shady Side had to think differently about the value proposition that they delivered to the students to make them survive in an entirely different program. And what did they do? They changed. They really focused on the faculty and the academic excellence. It's better today than it's ever been. It's better today than it's ever been. The diverse offering that you have here, that you've experienced, the technology that's been put in, the focus on global, the idea that they're encouraging you to take leadership roles, that's different. And making sure that you are collaborative, which is different than it was 30 years ago. But on the other hand, you have to do it. They were able to accomplish it by the faculty still having that soft personal hand. Probably didn't always feel good, but that soft personal hand to make sure that the educational experience was terrific, and the ethics commitment remained the same as the school changed. And so it's done a remarkable job of enhancing education here during a changing environment that we're in. When I think of Pittsburgh, I think of it the same way. 40 years ago, the cultural district, as you know it, was a red light district, and the North Shore was a mess. It was a dump. And in the 80s, we lost 250,000 steel-related jobs in Pittsburgh. We had an over 10% unemployment rate. It was a nightmare. Very difficult time. What happened? Pittsburghers pulled together, quite frankly. We redeveloped the cultural district into arguably the best cultural district in America. It's received awards. The North Shore was totally rebuilt. The colleges and universities had spin-off companies. UPMC grew, PNC grew, a number of other companies grew. And quite frankly, we came together in a way to rebuild the entire environment so that today we have a 6.5% unemployment rate, 1.5% below the national average. We've been named the most livable city 3 times in the last 5 years. And this year we were named the best city in North America to begin a career by the Financial Times in London. And it's piece by piece. It's not because somebody had a plan. So you'll hear a lot of buzzwords, but I just encourage you to think expansively as you move ahead. This technology is going to give you opportunities that are different than you could imagine. Always follow your values, act ethically, and lead. Take a leadership role when you can, but don't forget that you're a teammate. And don't forget to try and fail once in a while. You know, it happens once in a while. You got to take a chance, like the clown that stood on Stanwyck Street. You know, you never know. Take a chance. Abraham Lincoln was a failed businessman, lost 9 elections. And my favorite is that J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before she got Harry Potter published. So it's really, really remarkable. And I'll just say one last thing about the last value that I want to impress upon you, and that's performance. It is all about performance. And I had a professor in graduate school who told us the first day of school, he said, if you miss 2 classes, I don't care if your mother dies, a car wrecks, it doesn't matter. If you miss 2 classes, you're going to flunk this course. And we didn't believe it, but we found out it was true. Now, this person made $1 million a year. What an arrogant guy. He handed out his tax return first day of class. 1971, a long time ago. But halfway through the course, he said, you went out and found out that it's true. You're going to flunk if you miss 2 classes. And I want to tell you why. Because when you're out there in the real world and when you're competing and you're pursuing a career, if you don't show up, you're never going to get the order. They don't care if your car broke down or if somebody got sick. They don't care. You've got to show up and you've got to work hard. And I think this class is a very fortunate class. You've got this magnificent education that you've received. It's a great deal that you've accomplished today. So you've got a running start into the future. You've got a great environment to operate in because of the change that's happening and going on every day. And frankly, you've got the work ethic and the values to make it work. So I know all of you will be successful. It's just up to you as to how much. Thank you very, very much for the great invitation. Congratulations and good luck.